Welcome in, everybody, to another episode of the Seven Figures or Bust podcast, the number one podcast in the world for growing your insurance business. It's episode 83. I'm your host, Christian Brindle, joined with my co-host, as always, Glenn Shelton. And for those of you that are watching live, we are about an hour and a half earlier than normal this morning.
We are.
For those of you early birds that are chasing worms at the moment, this one's for you.
All you little millies and billies out there.
Yeah.
Chasing the money.
Yes. All right. Jam-packed episode today. We're going to be talking about the off season for Medicare agent and what you need to do in order to continue to grow your business and not just go on autopilot. Because let's face it, the real players are not going on autopilot, ladies and gentlemen, and you need to not do so as well.
100%.
But to start off, before we jump into that topic, we have a little bit of an interesting story to share with you. This whole Globe Life situation.
Really fast before we get into it, because this is an insane. So I've referenced it a few times. When I read this article yesterday, I was just floored. I was like, this is even crazier than I thought it was. Like, this is insane. But before that, I have some housekeeping here. Okay. Shout out to Brady. Brady is the agent that I referenced yesterday who had a killer OEP, over 100 apps. So, Brady, I'm sorry I forgot your name. I saw your post. You're awesome. Keep crushing it, dude.
Love it.
That's my housekeeping.
That's
my housekeeping.
Okay, so let's get into this Globe Life thing, right? So there's an article that we want to go through with you guys. For those of you that are just watching on or listening on the audio only platforms, don't worry, we'll read through it with you. We give you a lot of commentary so you can kind of hear what's going on. But more or less, I mean, there is an extremely insane situation going on from it looks like with Globe Life. It's public information. So the article starts off with Globe Life fends off shareholder lawsuits alleging the company misled investors. Wow, what a headline. Okay, Glenn, for anybody that's not familiar, Globe Life plays in what sector?
So Globe Life is a life insurance company. This is how I remembered them from when I was just a wee lad.
Oh, we bet.
They were infamous. I wouldn't be surprised if they're still doing this, but they would literally put in newspapers these little ads that essentially was like $250,000 of life insurance for just $10 a month. Just crazy. And you look at it and you're like, that's not true.
Right.
But what they're doing is they're selling accidental death. So Globe Life, that's how I think they really got big, is advertising these really cheap accidental death policies in newspapers. I remember seeing them over and over and over. I think in some of these ads, I think you could even like clip out the ad and like mail it in. It was like a mail-in newspaper piece. Wow. But now the interesting thing is Globe Life actually combined with United American.
Right.
Which some of you might know because United American is in the Medicare space.
On the Medicare side.
Yes, they sell Medicare supplements. This is a wild story for me too, because I've worked with both of these companies. So this hits close to home for me. It's like I don't know. It's just crazy. You work with companies all the time. We all do. And you assume that everyone's on the up and up, everyone's doing their best, and then information like this comes out, and it's like, whoa, like,
wow,
yeah, it's like, and I'm all about innocent till proven guilty. So
sure.
until the final hammer drops, I'm not passing judgment, but this has been in circulation for a while now. This information's been out there. Came out last year, but this is an update from 2025. So this is actually pretty recent information.
Okay. All right, so let's start going through the article. It starts off by saying a Texas judge consolidated 2 of multiple lawsuits Friday alleging that Globe Life misled investors. In November, I'm not going to say that name right, or that name, filed separate shareholder derivative lawsuits.
This is good summit practice for you, bro.
Yes. just that's the new rule.
That's the new. And here comes Mr. Speaker. Come on up to the stage.
And here comes Dude Man.
Dude Man.
He's like a superhero, Dude Man. Filed separate shareholder derivative lawsuits against the executives and directors of Globe Life Inc. in the U.S. District Court for the Eastern District of Texas. A shareholder derivative suit is a lawsuit filed by a shareholder on behalf of a corporation against the third party who has harmed the company. The consolidated lawsuit names 19 current and former Globe Life executives and directors. Wow, that's a lot. It references Blockbuster 2024 allegations contained in several short seller reports. Okay, this is where it gets kind of interesting. At least 3 short sellers and other research firms have issued reports accusing brokers at Subsidy American Income Life of widespread sexual harassment and insurance fraud. Wow, if there's 2 things you don't want to be accused of, those might be the 2. Together, no less, including writing policies for dead and fictitious people.
That's the one that's just like fraud's one thing, but writing life insurance policies on dead people, that is like the grand slam of life insurance fraud.
Wow.
in my opinion. It's just insane.
Yeah. And an alleged kickback scheme that netted millions for senior executives. Oh my God. For at least 4 years, the company consistently reported artificially inflated profitability metrics for Globe Life and reported, and particularly its American Income Life subsidiary. The lawsuit states these metrics were inflated because over that period, American Income Life was engaging in widespread insurance and recruiting fraud. Instead of disclosing these issues, the individual defendants attributed the company's financial success to increased agent count, policy persistency, and high sales. Wow. So to make sure that I'm understanding this correctly, what they're being basically accused of is, of course, writing policies on people that are dead, that don't exist, but like reporting to their earners to basically convince them not to sell their shares for new investors to come in and buy shares in the company.
Yeah.
That they have more policies than they had, that their persistency rate was way higher than it was, and that they have a lot more sales force than they do.
All of that is, again, that's my same understanding. Now here's what I didn't understand until I dove into this yesterday again, is I didn't realize that this was coming from the angle of the short sellers.
Right.
Basically my understanding is that these short sellers knew that the company wasn't doing as well as they were reporting, but then the company kept reporting great quarters over and over, which obviously if you're shorting the company, that hurts you, right? You're expecting things. So basically it got to the point where they're like, all right, we've got to get the truth out here.
Right.
But that does devil's advocate, right? How many times has false information been shared by short sellers to try to tank a company artificially? Right?
Constantly. Yeah.
All the time.
All the time.
There seems to be a lot more meat on this bone, though.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Not defending Global Life on this one, but it seems like there's some more meat here for sure.
Continues. Despite the swirling controversies, Globe Life also faced or is facing various inquiries from the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, the Securities and Exchange Commission, so the EEOC, the SEC, and the Department of Labor, along with various civil lawsuits. My God. The insurer continues posting strong quarterly earnings. Wow.
Another great quarter, guys. Another great. That's amazing. That's a great one.
Next podcast, we should react to the shareholder call. We should just go through that.
We should just we got to be live on that. I gotta buy share. We got to buy some collective shares of this company. I want to be a shareholder.
Another shareholder lawsuit. Plaintiffs are asking for damages for shareholders in Globe Life, as well as a series of reforms to strengthen financial reporting, disclosures, and oversight of the insurer's day-to-day operations. A similar but separate non-derivative lawsuit was filed in April by the City of Miami General Employees and Sanitation Employees Retirement Trust. The trust filed its complaints as a class action on behalf of anyone who acquired shares of Globe Life common stock between May 8th, 2019 and April 10th, 2024. Yikes. Globe Life was initially rocked by an April 11th report by short seller Fuzzy Panda. The report said Fuzzy Panda Research had uncovered extensive... That's terrific.
Yeah, that's a great name.
Yeah, never heard of that one, but
this is the best article I've ever read, if I'm being honest.
Yeah. Extensive allegations of insurance fraud ignored by management despite being obvious and reported hundreds of times. Wow. So it's like it's being reported.
Over and over, yes.
Every time upper management is like, it's fine. I told you it's fine.
Did you see the last quarter's numbers? I don't need these complaints.
Everyone's doing it.
Okay? We're doing great.
Doing great, okay? Shareholders are ready to go.
The shareholders love us.
Globe Life denied the allegations and claimed that analysis by Fuzzy Panda mischaracterizes facts and uses unsubstantiated claims and conjecture to present an overall picture of Globe Life that is deliberately false. So they're fighting back. They're pushing back against this. They're like, "No, we didn't do that."
That next line's a big one.
Okay. As a result of the report, the price of Globe Life common stock declined 55.76%. or 53% from a closing price of $104.93 per share on April 10th, 2024 to a closing price of $49.17 a share on April 11th of 2024. That's a massive drop. That is
one day, 50% of the company's value based on this information. So again, that's why it is, it's crazy the world we live in where information has this type of power. Whether this is true or not, we're still trying to figure that out, right? This is in court right now. It's being litigated. But like some of the stuff, like when you read in between the lines, like that line about this being reported to upper management hundreds of times, like yikes.
Very specific.
Like, yeah, that's not good. But that's the power of this information, though. You see that the company just declines 50% overnight. I'm going to take a quick peek too. I'm curious to know what's the stock price today.
Yeah. Look it up. Take a look.
Yeah, a little goog.
As you're looking that up, I'll the next part of it. I'll go a little bit more. I don't know if there's anything really spicy for the.
You're not gonna believe this.
Okay.
Believe this. It is currently It's at its 52-week high right now.
With the market crashing all around.
It's at its 52-week high. 132.
132? Wow. 132. What a recovery.
What a rebound. Oh my gosh. This is amazing.
Okay. Globe Life represented that its employees adhered to a code of conduct that expressly prohibited various forms of misconduct and which required that all Globe Life employees comply with relevant laws and regulations. Purportedly, ensuring that the company would maintain a workplace free from violence, threatening behavior, and illegal drugs. The City of Miami lawsuit says, as a result of defendants' misrepresentation, shares of Globe Life common stock traded at artificially inflated prices throughout the class period. District Judge is overseeing all of the cases against Globe Life, which he is headquartered in McKinney, Texas. So, wow, very interesting. I mean, okay, here, this is kind of interesting. This last part here. Securities lawsuits alleging misstatements of or omissions of sexual misconduct have had mixed success in federal courts. The sexual misconduct is it just shows a whole nother thing.
Wild card, just a wild card into this. Yeah,
like, you have all this horrible allegations, and then it's like, the people over there are horny. Their agents are horny. They're whoever's being accused, they're horny.
Look at that line right up there too. If Globe Life were selling substantial numbers of fraudulent life policies, it would be reflected in higher lapse rates, marked increases in allowance for credit loss, larger. I mean, if you're writing a policy on a dead person, though, it's not like that policy ever falls off. They're already dead. And,
right.
And the premium's obviously fraudulent too. So you could easily keep that policy active for years if you want to. So I completely disagree with that statement. It's just not true.
Right. Wow. None of this happened. The motion reads, Globe Life's publicly reported lapse rates held steady, and its audited financial statements did not reflect increasing allowances for credit losses or large write-offs. So they're defending. They're on the defense about all of this.
What are your thoughts on this after a nice little teardown right there?
Well, I think again, everything is allegedly, right? I want to make sure we cover our own butts on the show this morning, but everything is allegedly. But man, what a horrific! I mean, we did a podcast earlier this year about, is all publicity good publicity? This is not good publicity. I don't care. This is bad publicity.
The stock price would like a word with you, sir.
I guess so.
I don't know.
I think even if this didn't go anywhere in court, the everlasting damaging public PR nightmare of this would remain for years, if not a decade. People would think about that. Like, we have carriers that we work with that maybe, didn't do things the best, early on in entering our market, right? 10 years ago, 15 years ago, maybe they didn't pay claims well. They were hard to work with. They didn't have providers in the network, whatever the case might be. And they've completely turned it around and have been very solid for years. And there's still people that they're like, I heard this about this company. I'm like, that was like 20 years ago. I'm like,
it's true.
I'm like, if a child was born when this was happening, they're a freaking adult now. But like people's everlasting memory of bad PR goes on forever, right? Like, will people ever forget the Will Smith slap? It might take
reference.
It might take another 10 years and another like 6 movies that flop before he finally puts one out and they're like, all right, we forgive you, Big Willie style. It might. That's my thought process. Like,
I'm a little surprised. You've been on the PR side of this in the sense of you always love all publicity, good or bad. I feel like you've always been a fan of. This is like Chernobyl, though. This isn't bad. Like bad. This isn't bad publicity. This is like a Earth is scorched type of event where there really is almost no coming back from it. I am going to be fascinated to see how this ends up, where it goes from here. I'm shocked the stock is at its 52-week high. I'm trying to
Me too.
in the line there where it's like, and the company keeps having the best quarters ever. It's like, oh. And in my head, I picture this Globe Life agent walking through a cemetery, and he's just got a notepad and pen. He's like, okay, what's your name?
Walking up to a woman who's grieving over a loved one and being like, hey, babe, want to go back to my room? Sexual harassing along the way.
Hey, what was your husband's social? I see his grave here.
So throws out some horribly like sexist remark.
Man.
I'm not even gonna say what I'm thinking.
Please don't.
Please don't. But no, I think it's it's hard to know. I mean, it looks really bad. It looks like there's a lot of specifics, a lot of evidence that seems like it's being put forward. It's not good for them. I guess what I'm thinking about it, like the best case scenario, right? Like even if somehow they prove that this was wrong and they beat it, that kind of thing. I'm saying like the reputation of it would follow the company for a decade, for longer maybe. Like, I just think, and the worst case scenario, of course, is like they get indicted on fraud, they get shut down or something. Like, I mean, it's bad. That's all bad.
So
some of the worst allegations you can have.
I guess let's assume the worst. Let's assume it's as bad as it sounds. They're found guilty of all this. They're essentially forced to stop practicing business. What happens to all those policies? They're like fire sold to another insurer that guarantees them?
I don't really know, to be honest. I think so. I believe that's what would happen.
And who wants to buy a bunch of dead people, in life insurance policies?
Well, I don't think those would be bought. I think those would be thrown by the wayside.
Yeah, well, they'd have to really dig through the books,
right? I think, but you think like the agencies that are coming down on them would really probably sink their teeth into this, right? Like the SEC in particular. They'd probably go through every little detail of the records, like probably be a multi-year process of really determining like who's a real policyholder, who's not a real policyholder, and then from there,
it would take some forensic accounting.
Yeah, sure. So it's a fascinating story. It's it looks insanely bad for those guys.
Well, and what's interesting too, again, so my initial thought is that this was really Globe Life. But then reading this article and digging into it again yesterday, it looks like allegedly American Income Life, who and we've had, you and I have talked a lot about the life health side. I know a lot of these life brokerages coming from the life space. So I'm very familiar with American Income Life. They're a heavily recruiting agency akin to, not to say they're like the same exact, but NAA is one that's a lot of agents know, right? National Agents Alliance. It's that same style agency where they're aggressive about recruiting. I know they tried to recruit me at one point, American Income Life. So that was interesting to see too, that it might be coming from a subsidiary that's propping up Globe Life's numbers, and maybe they're trying willful ignorance. They're trying to look the other way. Maybe Globe Life is like, I don't know what American Income Life's doing, but they're crushing. We're so happy. Papa's proud. Papa's really proud of American Income Life. But the truth will come out. That's for sure. Well, I'm sure we'll get to that. So we'll definitely keep everybody updated as we learn more on this one. This is fascinating.
We certainly will. Let's move into this episode's sponsor, shall we?
Yes.
So,
yes.
This episode, guys, is brought to you by the 7-Figure Medicare Agent Summit that is taking place in Salt Lake City, June 23rd and 24th, with the 22nd being the arrival day. Guys, many of you attend events each year and many of you leave disappointed from what you experience. A lot of you are pitched and sold the idea that you will be taught real business tactics and be provided real value to help you grow your business. You spend thousands of dollars in the form of tickets, plane fare, hotel rooms, and then it turns out that, the content is either lackluster, it's a barara fest, or it's just a straight up pitch fest where you are literally in the room to be sold to get into a different room for a much larger price point. That does not happen at the 7-Figure Medicare Agent Summit, guys. Each year, it has become synonymous with no strings attached value, with no pitching from amazing speakers doing big time things in the industry from all walks of life in the industry. Now, John, the tickets are 30% off for the month of April, and I'm telling you, John, they might sell out and there might be none left, and they could be a heck of a lot higher than that. Sorry, Wolf of Wall Street.
You could pay your mortgage with it. That's right.
What's that, John? You could grow your business by $500,000 a year. That's right. You could pay off your mortgage. Sorry, little Wolf of Wall Street fun with you guys. But yes, guys, make sure to get your tickets to the 7-Figure Medicare Agent Summit. Glenn and I, of course, will both be front and center on the stage and there in person. We'd love to hang out with you guys and spend some time with you guys. And we are close to selling out. There was around 6 tickets that sold yesterday. Yeah, 6 tickets I believe that sold yesterday.
We're moving. So, we're grooving.
This event will sell out, and get your tickets while you can.
I wanted to mention too, while we're talking about the summit, there was that comment yesterday. Someone was talking about another event where they were having trouble even finding seating in certain rooms, which is kind of ironic to the whole get in the room. It's like, what do you do when you get in the room? There's not even a seat for you in the room.
You stand for an hour.
Yeah.
for
you're
hours.
Packed in like a sardine. You're packed in there. Part of what I've always really loved about the summit, and this is going to be year 5 or 4. I always forget 4. But I've been to a lot of different events. I've been to some really, really big events, and it's always a bummer when you're at a really big event and there's almost too many people there. You don't get a chance to talk to everyone that you want to. You're having to pick and choose between potentially like what speakers you're hearing from. There's a certain level of intimacy with the size event that we're anticipating we're going to have. We should have somewhere around 400 people at this 7-Figure Medicare Agent Summit this year. So, it's a great size event. We're not going to have rooms with no chairs. Everyone who wants to sit can sit.
There will not
and I'm
be
looking
poor
forward
planning going on.
Yeah.
On our part. We will make sure you have a chair.
You will have a chair. I promise everybody right now. I'm going to go on the limb right now. If you come to the summit, I will make sure you have a chair.
You will have a chair. Some events can't handle that. The summit
the bar is low. The bar is low. Apparently, we just have to make sure people have chairs, and it's a great event.
That's our competition. Our competition can't manage getting enough chairs for their attendees.
What did you think when you saw that comment? I know you saw it. You responded.
I did. I was like, of course. I
know.
Of course. I mean, the bare minimum of holding an event is make sure there's enough chairs. Make sure that you show up as the people that actually, run the event, and make sure no one dies. Those are your bare minimum responsibilities. Of course, everything else is encouraged as well, making sure that there's actual content and things like that. But if you fail at one of the big 3, no chairs being provided, being one of those 3, why are you going to these events? I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's a tough one. That's a tough one. Guys, a couple links in the comments below on this video, part of our quote unquote show notes for all you Millie Billies and Figgies out there. I don't think anybody commented on audience names yesterday. I'm waiting. I'm still waiting for someone to say something. That's okay. I'll just keep throwing crazy names out there until someone says something. But I've got a link to the Seven Figure Medicare Agent Summit. I've got a link to the news article we just covered as well, regarding that Globe Life lawsuit that's going on. And now, without further ado,
yes,
our main topic, the meat and potatoes, the entree of the episode.
Yeah.
I'm hungry. It's early. I'm hungry.
Okay, so the off season, right?
Yes.
We, as of yesterday, today, the time of recording this is April 2nd. So we are entering in what's known as the Medicare off season. Let me explain. There's 2 enrollment periods over the time of the year, right? You have OEP January 1st through March 31st. And while you cannot market OEP compliantly, it's not against the rules. You can't do it. You can't put out an advertisement that says, hey, it's OEP. Call me and get your plan changed. That's a freaking no-no, ladies and gentlemen. But it doesn't mean you can't market in general and use OEP as an opportunity to change people that can find themselves into a better plan. And then AEP, of course, the Wild Wild West, the circus. All of you guys know about AEP. The months in between, basically April 1st through the last day of September, is considered the off season. And there's just less people you can write. We've talked on the pod about changes to the dual SEP that have allowed people to write a lot less people than they have in the past with the dual SEP. You can still write some people, but not even close to as many as you used to. Like, it used to be once a quarter, anybody that had Medicaid of any kind, Medi-Cal in California, LIS, you could change once a quarter, no questions asked. Even if you were on a Medicaid and you just had LIS, you could do it. That's not the case anymore. So off season, people are wondering, people are asking, how do I grow my business in the off season? Glenn, how do the people do it? How do the people grow their business in the off season?
Disaster SEP, you guys.
No!
Write that code, baby. Disaster SEP. We're staying busy all year long.
It's a joke. It's a joke, carriers. It's a joke. I promise.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. You know what's funny is my first thought when I'm hearing this, so coming from the life side, being a full-time life insurance agent, there's no off season.
Right.
You are out there writing business every day, every week, every month, every year. And the idea of an off season is just such a wild concept. And I remember I had a lot of, go ahead.
I'm sorry. I just wanted to add to that. Like, before Medicare Advantage was a thing too, for those of you, old guard that are still doing it, and haven't sold your books to us. Yet. But for those of you that are kind of
ESI.
ESI. Oh! No, but for those of you that are in that situation,
we're buying books.
God, this is a crazy episode.
This is what happens when we go early. It gets
a little wild. No, but for those of you that are around before Medicare Advantage became a thing, circa 2005, 2006, prior to that, that's kind of how it was for Medicare too. It was only MedSup. It was year round, right? There was no AEP. It was very much like that. Year round, people on MedSups, is a very, from my understanding, I wasn't around then. I was a wee lad, but it was a very consistent flow of business that stayed the same pretty much all year. There was no up or down, busy season, that kind of thing.
With hundreds of insurance agents and agency owners at the event, this could not be a better opportunity to spotlight your business. If you're looking for a sponsorship opportunity and where to spend your sponsorship dollars this year, the Seven Figure Medicare Agent Summit is the spot to do it. You can have your own booth. You can network with agents. This is the 4th annual summit, so there's going to be a lot of agents there and a lot of agents who are looking for help from vendors for leads, educational vendors, You could have a software tool. There's so many great vendors that we've had in the past, and we're looking at a lot of great opportunities for businesses to sponsor at the Seven Figure Medicare Agent Summit. So if you are looking for a sponsorship opportunity, make sure to check out sevenfiguresmedicareagentsummit.com.
Get your tickets today while they're still available and reach out about sponsorship opportunities. We'd love to have you involved with the Seven Figure Medicare Agent Summit in 2025. Now back to the show.
Yeah, that's a great point. And again, there's still a lot of health agents and Medicare agents who don't participate in this seasonal cycle. I would say the majority do. I feel like the average Medicare agent will almost write no business until AEP, and then they'll really write, and then it's like, oh, Christmas, time to put my pen away for 8 months, So coming from the life side though is, and I did have, it is this kind of Bloods Crips thing, which the number of references to the Bloods Crips on this show is wild, but
yeah.
I came,
the man who created the Crips. I'm sorry. I won't go down that rabbit hole. Continue.
I came into the Medicare side. I was fed a lot of misinformation about Medicare. So when I really started to get into the Medicare side of the business, I came into it and I was a little jaded. I didn't, there's no money in Medicare. You don't get paid as much when you're writing these policies. It's more service work, blah, 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 blah. Like all of these lies that's its own pod right there is, the lies about Medicare, the myths of Medicare that get pushed on life producers specifically because they don't want you to leave. They want you to stay in your life lane. So
stay on the hamster wheel, if you would.
Yes. Oh no. The hamster wheel. Any of you hamstered? We got chicken littles and we got hamsters. We got all sorts of it. It's like a farm in here.
I think we have the name of our audience.
I think we do.
No, just kidding. That's not the majority of you.
Chicks and hammies. Chicks and hammies. I came into this with the idea that there is no off season, right? When I finally did kind of make my transition into the Medicare space as an agent, and I was, at one point I'm offering essentially both. I'm not thinking about an off season ever. If anything, I'm just thinking about what's my primary offer, or what is my focus this month or this week, and I'm just literally that's it. So this idea that a lot of, I don't know if you want to speculate on, what percentage of agents take the off season off, but I would assume it's the majority of Medicare agents, right?
Well, when it comes to speculation, I'm told that's all we do on this podcast. The shots never stop. No, I was happy to speculate. I would say definitely the majority. I would say that more agents just chill and don't work as hard as they need to or they should be, in my opinion, during the off season as they do during the rest of the year. There's a lot of agents I know that just hang out and then they show up and then they show up for AEP. But those agents never really win in a big way. You know what I mean? I've never seen an agent that does that they're like they've built a massively successful business. I've just never seen it. They just kind of like float through life like butterflies, average to mediocre business.
Yeah.
Sorry to say, it's just, name me one thing you can do 2 months a year and be exceptional at it.
Great point, especially with the number of changes that happen in our space. If you look at, I can't imagine unplugging for 6 to 8 months.
Yeah.
If you're working AEP and you're doing a little bit of OEP and then you're just completely disassociating for the rest of the year, like how can you possibly be as good as the agency across the street or across your city or state, whatever, and they're fully locked in all year long. They're writing policies all year long. They're already going to be up to date with the changes. They're going to overcome any hurdles, and they'll be right, rocking and ready to go. Your ramp time, your prep time, getting back into the swing of things, going into AEP is going to cost you. Something that I feel like we've talked about, but this is important to me, is like, I feel like my day-to-day, it's very much so momentum. It's very similar to sports, where it's like you watch a game, it could be any game, football, basketball, soccer, whatever. One team will start to get the momentum. They get the steal, they make the pass, they get the basket, and then all of a sudden they get two more, and it starts to swing. The pendulum starts to swing. That's how it is for my personal work day to day too. I get one thing done, get another thing done. Here's another thing that I got done. Just get through another meeting. If I were to just put a hard stop, a hard break on that, I just feel like it feels like a death sentence. It really does. It feels like you're killing your business. So
Yeah,
I hate it. I hate this off-season idea. I understand why it's structured the way it is and why we call it the off-season, but I hate that there's these agents that are like, all right, see you in September. Deuces, I'm out.
I think that's such a good point, and I totally agree with you. And I'm the same way for sure. Like, you get into a rhythm, if you will,
flow state,
and you're knocking things out, and things build into other massive opportunities.
Yes.
Even if it might seem like a insignificant thing that you're getting done, it can snowball into something much bigger because you're putting that compounded time in. Over the course of the year. And it is a thing where it's like, in anything that you're doing, it could be sports, it could be business, anything like that. But like, if you're starting and stopping, like, you look at an athlete, right, that's like consistently not playing because of injury or something like that. Like, by the time they come back, usually they're rusty and they're not good for a while, and they have to play back into that consistency and that rhythm. And that's a real thing. I think in anything that you do, I think, one of my mentors early on told me one time, he said, anything worth doing is worth doing every day.
Yep.
And I'm like, I that really stuck with me because, it's just one of those things that, if you are out of rhythm like that, your business just doesn't have the opportunity to really grow. We talk a lot about pipeline too. Filling your pipeline, that's a big part of it too, right? Like, a lot of times you fill your pipeline, and a lot of times the people that have a pipeline, like, they have certain amounts of people in there that they've been kind of working with and following up with and keeping up with for a pretty good period of time, sometimes months, maybe even sometimes years if someone's continuing to work, right? Like, and then they come back later. Like, you consistently working, the compounding effects of keeping your pipeline full and filling that pipeline, I don't think can be overstated at all.
Totally agree.
I want to make sure we have time, to talk about, though, like, what do agents need to do to win in the
Well, salute. I was literally about to cut you off to be like, I feel like we've really addressed the problem. Let's talk about the solution. What if this is your first off season, as an example, and you're like, what do I do? How do I stay busy?
So the first thing you need to do is you need to identify who can you write. We talked yesterday on the pod, like, targeting the appropriate demographic. First off, who can you write? So there's two types of people, I would say, that overwhelmingly are going to make up who you can write right now. You're going to have people that qualify for SCPs, they move, things like that, but you can't build a business off of those. You can't rely off of those. So, like, the main two people probably to target are going to be Tier 65 people and Medicare supplement people that want to have their rates revisited and have their rates lowered and their policy rewritten. Those would be probably the two cornerstones, I guess, of your off-season attack. Probably T65 more than anything else. There's 12,000 people now a day turning 65, and that demographic is just booming. And, there's nothing quite like T65 business. I mean, if you get a client that is 65, it's probably the most valuable client in the Medicare space you can have because they're younger, they're going to be around longer. If you take good care of them, the chances of them staying with you long term are very high, opposed to, if you do a plan change. So I think that's probably the main business I would be targeting right now. The next question kind of comes down to what type of lead sources. Someone posted in the Facebook group yesterday, what are people doing for lead sources right now? My response was the Holy Trinity: lead heroes, so telemarketed leads, preset appointments, those kind of things, seminars, and Facebook ads.
Yeah.
Like, is there anything you can do that doesn't fit in one of those categories in a really big way? I don't think so. And there's other things you can do that are sprinkled in for sure. But like, if you want predictable lead flow, someone commented to me and they were like, Facebook ads suck. I'm like, well, you just must suck at them. Like, what do you mean? We're running. How many Facebook ads are we running right now?
Today. An incredible, and honestly, yesterday I was thinking about it.
Well, they're bad, Glenn. They're bad.
I want to deploy more. I want to deploy more. I was even thinking about it yesterday. I think there's a lot more advertising we can do. Yeah, I think if you're saying Facebook ads suck, one is you probably went all in on Facebook ads. Again, I'm thinking the average agent, right? You took your $500 in marketing, you crammed it all through Facebook. Maybe you just tried to do a copy, like a cookie cutter copy of someone else's ad. It didn't really go how you wanted to. You only got, 15-20% of people to pick up the phone. You didn't make any sales. That happens. So it's more about how do you build a strategy? How do you build a target? I really liked your Holy Trinity. I'm picturing like the Zelda Triforce.
Yeah.
I saw someone at the pool yesterday. They had a Triforce tattooed on him. I'm like, damn, I need to get a Triforce on me.
That guy's cool.
He's cool.
He's really cool.
How's my beard look? Do I look?
Do you think he'll like me? Do you think he'll think I'm cool?
Which, I don't want to derail this, but there's been this weird trend I'm starting to see where people are bragging. There's marketers. I'm seeing marketers bragging about their clients tattooing their company on them. Have you seen any of this?
No.
Have you seen it? So guys, if you want to get one of our brands tattooed on you, I'll pay for the tattoo personally.
Yes. I co-sign that.
We will pay free tattoos. Okay, free tattoos.
Free tattoos.
Any brand. We have lots of brands, lots of logos between our 5 companies.
You can even get one of our faces if you like.
Oh, no, not mine. Christian's face.
Glenn's face.
I will actually pay you I will pay if you get Christian's face tattooed on you. I will not only cover the cost of the tattoo, I will also give you a payment as well, a bonus. Because I want that to happen so bad. Reach out. Okay, so the Holy Trinity, though. So the only thing that was missing there when you said seminars, I would probably include webinar with seminar. They're kind of like brother sister to me. I think they're similar.
I kind of put webinar in the ads category, though, the online ads category, in my opinion, because I think that encompasses a lot. Like, it could be preset appointments, could be webinars, it could be call-in leads, it could be leads you're generating that you're calling. There's a lot of different forms that a Facebook ad can take, but no, I think it fits right into that, though. But yeah, I mean, I really think if you concentrated on those three, like telemarketed, seminars, and Facebook ads, and all of your paid advertising, or the vast majority went towards that, you'd crush it as a business if you could really crack the code on all three of those.
Well, let's talk about, though, if you're not focusing on a Medicare product, though, because there's a lot of agents, call centers, agencies, that I personally have been talking to, working with, where they're taking a little bit of a different approach. They're going to be targeting ancillary, whether that's final expense, dental, vision, hearing, hospital indemnity, something where they can come back to that Medicare. Because here's the situation that's going to come up during the off season. You're marketing for whatever it is. Unless it's like a true turning 65, you probably won't encounter this. But if you're doing med sup, dental, vision, hearing, final expense, any type of marketing, there's a strong possibility you're going to come across someone that you cannot help until AEP, right?
Absolutely. Yep.
So, building your pipeline, like Christian was just talking about, if let's say you were able to sell, 100 dental policies or 100 dental, vision, hearing policies by October 1st, now you have this list of clients that you can reach out to and see if you can help them and potentially, get that Medicare policy. That's the beauty of the off season. If you are strategic about it, you can sell other policies, other products. You can continue to build your book. You can continue to stay busy, stay active. And then that should really continue to give you that momentum, like we talked about, going into AEP. All of these clients that you wrote, again, it doesn't even have to be Medicare related. You can now compliantly reach out to and say, hey, Mrs. Jones, AEP is around the corner. I helped you with that dental policy 3 months ago. I want to talk about your Medicare policy. Can you sign the scope of appointment? Yeah. Boom. You're off to the races. It's that easy, you guys.
I think that's a great one. Absolutely. And, I've over the years always been a big proponent. Like if you do an appointment and you can't run, I remember in particular in the early days of the Facebook group, I think it was during COVID, I was working leads, working from home at the time. And it was when I was doing these lead review videos early on, for the YouTube channel. And I remember there was a week in particular, and this has always been a practice of mine, but this week in particular, I just seemed to run into like 4 or 5 straight people that I couldn't help them with their main product for whatever reason.
Yeah.
And I ended up selling them. I think on all 5, I think I sold 4 of them dental plans and 1 a hip plan. And I remember sharing with the Facebook group, like, guys, you need to be bringing up these other products in these situations. You're shooting yourself in the foot. When you're trying to, but then in addition to that, another thing too, that kind of goes hand in hand with that is like, if you have a book, you should be trying to cross sell these policies to your book as well during the off season, right? Like,
absolutely.
I think ancillary sales is such a great thing to kind of focus on as well during the off season too, because it gives you some time to really kind of concentrate on them a little bit.
I'm also just a huge fan of product diversity too. If 100% of your book is one product, there's some agents out there. We talked about this a little bit yesterday as we talked about carrier diversity, brokers who are essentially captive agents for one carrier and are just using the broker name almost as a smoke and mirrors approach, where they tell someone they're a broker, but they're essentially just repping one insurance carrier. You are going to be in a world of hurt if you go all in on one anything. You go all in on one marketing strategy for the off season. You go all in on one carrier for the off season. Have some level of diversity. It doesn't need to be wild. I'm not saying you need 12 different marketing strategies and 12 different carriers and you're trying to sell 5 different types of policies. Get it, maybe just pick dental, vision, hearing and final expense. Maybe it's med sup and dental, vision, hearing. Whatever it is, come up with a strategy, come up with a marketing strategy that can help with the carriers and the products you're trying to sell, and then continue to stay busy during the off season. And strategically, you have to kind of be looking ahead at AEP as well. Some of you get so lost in like the day-to-day, the week-to-week, you're not even thinking about like October 1st. There's a way to do both of it. There's a way to stay busy now during the off season and also look forward at AEP and be seeing, okay, if I do this now, I can actually set up my business for October 1st
Yeah.
And again, momentum. That's like the word of the day, momentum.
Mm-hmm.
You can start to build that momentum, and all of a sudden you're going to have the best AP you've ever had because you stayed busy during the off season. Plus you continued to generate revenue during the off season, and you didn't just take all this time off and slow down. And now, XYZ agency across the street just ran 10 laps around you.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Totally agree. I know we're getting close to top of the hour. I want to kind of move into final thoughts. I love this topic of conversation. I think there's so many things you can do in the off season. So many things you can do that help your business. I mean, our internal agency was, how do I say this? I wouldn't say that it was like primarily built in the off season, but it was probably just as built in the off season as it was during AP over the years. If you took those off seasons of all the work that I did in those years away, our agency wouldn't be what it is today by any stretch. And so, I would encourage you guys, to just understand first, there's lots of opportunity. There's lots of things you can be doing for your business right now. And there's people that need help right now, regardless if you want to go on a 4-month vacation, 5-6-month vacation or not.
Yes.
A lot of agents always say, I've said this for years now, but I really do believe it. A lot of agents will always say, like, if you ask an agent, like, do you think your client is best off working with you over anyone else? They'll be like, oh yeah, of course, I'll do a great job. But they don't try to help as many people as possible, which if they really believe what they said in the first statement, then it's this very selfish thing, in my opinion.
Yep.
You are causing people to be cheated over the amazing experience of you working with you. If you really believe that they're in the best hands with you, if you just say that and you don't really believe it, then you're a liar. You're a fibber. So like, I think that mentality matters. I think that mentality matters of like actually believing what you're saying and looking at it almost like as a public service. Think about all the people that get just bamboozled. They work with SHIP. They get some terrible advice. They get thrown into a plan by call center where their doctor's not covered. You can save more people from that.
Yep.
From that fate. If you would just work all year round and work in the off season. Doesn't mean you can't take breaks. Doesn't mean you can't take vacations, things like that. But like, you don't need to take half the year off. You just don't. So that would be my final thoughts.
No, I love it. Really fast, you guys. Freebie Friday happens every single Friday. All you have to do is comment on one of our live streams from the week. So we typically do 4 live streams a week. So 4 chances to enter into Freebie Friday. Drop a comment below. It could be anything. It could be hashtag team replay. It could be I'm willing to get my Christian's face tattooed on my body. At whatever you want to comment, feel free to comment below on one of the live streams, and then you could potentially win Freebie Friday. My final thoughts on today's episode, you guys. Ancillary products I'm super passionate about because I think it's overlooked by, again, the majority of agents. If I had to guess, I would say 90% of agents are not selling ancillary products, and definitely not selling ancillary products on a reoccurring basis. Like maybe they have like a one-off, they're writing like a dental policy here, or, someone asked for a life insurance policy, they wrote one here. If you can systematically include ancillary products into your process, you're going to have so much benefit. So there's such a big benefit from it. Talking about increased amount of revenue, both, first year commissions and renewal. You're going to see increased retention because now you're selling multiple policies in the same household. You're going to be able to stay busy during the off season when, the agent potentially, your competition is getting their beach towel. They're heading to the beach for 6 months. You're also doing, again, like Christian just said there a moment ago, you're doing the best service for that client as well, because they ultimately need that additional coverage. And a lot of times, if you don't sell it, someone else will. And that goes back to the retention thing. You might end up losing that client because you just didn't want to talk about dental insurance. When, like Christian said before, his story about his dad, he could have potentially sold that dental policy in the same amount of time he talked them out of it.
Probably less time.
Yeah, less time. It's a great story. If you haven't heard it, you got to check out some previous episodes. But that's my final thoughts, you guys. Focus on the momentum. Stay busy. Look at a strategy. I think the Holy Trinity was a great takeaway from today's episode as well, that Christian brought up. What marketing strategy can I pursue during the off season to stay busy? So great episode, wild episode. And I am praying someone gets Christian's face tattooed on their body from this episode. That would be amazing.
If you're interested in taking us up on that, on mine or Glenn's face, let us know, and we will fund it. We will fund it. We will fund it.
Oh my gosh.
Reach
terrifying.
out, guys. Reach out. Inquiries welcome. Inquiries welcome. We will book the appointment for you. We will find a reputable tattoo artist in your area.
Get some pictures. Pick out some good pictures. It's terrifying.
All right, guys. Well, appreciate you guys watching all the way to the end. We'll see you on the next one. And here's to your massive success. Thanks, everybody.
Happy selling.